am Heather McMunn, and I am the teacher apprentice teacher at the ACE at Hermitage. And right now, my students are working on some reflective practice as they've been in a student teaching internship experience for the last 6 weeks. So right now, you guys have a little journal entry that you've had some time to think about some things, and I want to discuss out loud with each other what surprised you about the internship. I guess I'll read the questions. So, how does my internship differ from what I thought it would be like? And then I gave some examples of things I was looking for. Student behavior. How is that different than what I thought it would be? Student management techniques. So some of the things that the teachers use to control the classroom behavior. What is different about time spent on tasks, the curriculum, and then student independence as a whole. Who would like to start us off? Okay, Amy?
I didn't expect to have so little time with the students, especially with kindergartners, because they're constantly doing other activities like counseling, music, art, library, recess, fun center, which is their chance to like have a dance break and all that kind of stuff. So by the time I get there, they're doing all those activities, so I have about 30 minutes with them total. So it's just not a lot of time, I guess, especially for the teachers, well, because they don't have a lot of time to do their lessons that they planned ahead of time.
Okay, does anyone else feel that way?
Yeah, I definitely say that I feel that way because when I arrive, they're coming back from lunch, and then in like 10 minutes, they're in like outside of recess, and so it's kind of hard to like actually take the time to build bonds with them, even though like, yeah, I have been able to over the course of the 6 weeks, but it just feels like time's so fast when I'm there, so yeah.
That's because you're having fun.
Yeah.
You guys,
I would say, well, I kind of agree, but on a different note. Like, I would say it's not really what we're doing here. It's more so what it's going to be like for real. And it kind of, it's very different because it's like I'm actively telling them, like, not what to do, but helping my teacher out and actively doing it. So that makes sense. Like, it's kind of nerve-wracking because it's like, what I'm telling you now, you could take into the real world and run with it. Like, this is real life. This is what I want to do and how it's going to go. And so I think it's kind of scarier than what I thought it was going to be, because what we're doing here is like mock lesson plans, and when I did my lesson plan, it was nothing like how the praise would be in here, the material, like the feedback I get.
the students didn't tell you good job?
No, they did, but it was like, I feel like a teacher, and I understand why teachers get frustrated and why they feel so unappreciated, because I was angry. Like, I was very angry.
So that's actually the second part of what we're going to do today, is we're going to talk specifically about our lesson plans, and maybe hold some of those thoughts, and we'll come back to that. Yeah.
I was going to add on to what she said about how we like mock our lessons and stuff. Obviously, in the real classroom, if I make a mistake or if something goes wrong, it's not like in here where I can be like, okay, everyone reset, and we're going to try again. Like, you just have to go with it. And that's really difficult, because I feel like talking to you guys when you're pretending to be kindergartners or whatever grade, I can just be like, oh, it's fine, it's not real. This isn't how they really are. And then I go in there and a bunch of kindergartners are running around and acting crazy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't focus. I can't get anything done. Very understandable.
Okay. All right. So reflective practice is a big part of teaching. That's why teachers get better with time, because you do something and you say, wow, I should have done this different. So the next time you do it, you can tweak those things. But reflective practice is something that's even important for a teacher who's been teaching for tons of years, because I can tell you another thing about kids is that kids change over time. You've heard us use this example a lot, but it's so true. Pre-COVID kids and post-COVID kids are just different. So what I was able to do pre-COVID might not work now, because children are different. Your class might be different. The type of learners in your class might be different. So you always have to reflect and think about how to best serve the students and exactly what you're doing. All right, so we are going to do some reflective practice thinking about our first lesson plan. So a couple of things. In your portfolio, there's a self-reflection sheet with some questions to kind of make you think back to your lesson. What did you like? What didn't you like? But I think the big question I like is, if you were to do the same lesson again, how would you do it differently and why? Okay? So these are the guiding questions. So I want you to take some time to think on those. And then I'm also going to pass back your teacher evaluation, because your teacher left you some praises, some grows and some glows of what you can work on to become better. And then lastly, I want to talk about our last lesson plan that you will do while you're at your internship, and how you can use these things to make to put into practice the reflection, and how you're going to do those things differently with this new insight.
Yeah.
If you are doing like a PowerPoint or something, make that your first slide so that you can't forget. And even if it's an item that doesn't need to be something like a PowerPoint, you can always use that to help you get started.
Yeah. I think it's just something that I overlooked. I was just really focused on the lesson itself and rather how I would act, I guess, around the students.
You assume that they were just going to sit there and listen?
No.
You're usually harder on yourself than most other people are going to be. But again, self-reflection is great for growth and just becoming the teacher that we may already think we are, because sometimes you watch yourself and you go, oh, I didn't realize I came across that way. But also into just developing your craft. A lot of you already possess the natural things a teacher needs. That's why you're here in the first place. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to talk about your lesson. Again, what worked really well, but basically the question of what would you do differently if you could do it again, or if you had known something, you would have done this differently. If only I had known, I would have. I also want you to refresh everyone what grade you're in, and kind of set the scene for what happened when you gave your first lesson.
I'm teaching kindergarten, and it's a smaller class than usual. It's, I think, 14 total kids. So that being said, even though there is a small amount of kids, it is very chaotic, and I felt like I was rushing a lot because of the lack of time.
How many kids in your class? So small.
There's 14,
14, okay.
and usually it's around 20.
Okay.
But my teacher gets some of the kids who need more like one-on-one support, so sometimes that kind of affects the lesson plans, and even her lesson plans, not just mine. So one of the things she talked to me about was she noticed I was rushing a lot, and that left a lot of extra time towards the end for students who finished it faster than others, so there was a lot of time where they were doing nothing. And she said having extra activities for them to do after, or go do this assignment from earlier, like telling them like, hey, even though you're done, doesn't mean it's free time. So that was something I needed to work on.
I'm presenting my lesson plan.
And tell us what grade you're in.
I'm in third grade.
Third grade, okay.
And it's an average of 18 students in our class. So my mistake was doing my lesson plan on a day that my teacher wasn't there. We had a sub who's a reoccurring sub, but is not really a strong authoritative person.
Okay.
She kind of like got them under control, but not to keep them under control. So when I started my lesson plan, it was just a simple book and a worksheet, and I could tell that wasn't enough. Like, they were already off the chain, and it was the day before spring break, so I don't think it was enough, and that's a regret that I have. I wish I would have had more, maybe a video or something more engaging, or a video on plot or main idea, but that's a mistake I think I made, like not having enough and not having the authority or management style or management needs, because I couldn't keep them focused. Like, they were focused for the book, because I feel like the book engaged them and it was childish and funny, but for the worksheet, they kind of just like did what they wanted to do. And I had to keep saying, well, let's work on our worksheet, like a broken record.
So what could you have done differently with the worksheet?
I could say, I feel like the worksheet should have been later. Like, I don't think I should have just read a book and gave them a worksheet. I feel like it should have been something in between. Like, I felt like it was a bit boring.
Did
And
it
they weren't
need to be a
engaged.
worksheet? Could it have been just questions still at the rug?
Yes, it could have.
Because was it something that made from the, were they on the rug, I'm assuming, or were
No,
they?
they were in their seats. And
Okay.
that's something I regret too, like, keeping them where they were. Because they have flexible seating. So if I could have said, well, guys, you can come to the rug, or you can move around wherever you feel comfortable, I feel like it would have been more engaging that way too.
Okay, so you said something that I think is going to be a theme as everyone shares this, and it was something I was just talking with Emmy about, but it's before you begin, you have to tell them what you want from them, right? You have to set your expectations.
I'm in kindergarten, and my first lesson plan was math-based, and so I did missing numbers. And I literally spent like 5 hours in my lesson plan, and it took them like 5 minutes. And I was just so defeated afterwards. Like, I literally felt like that was just so bad.
And tell us why it took you so long to do your lesson.
For me?
Yeah.
Because I decided to cut everything out and color everything and laminate everything by myself, and that was not a good idea. But basically, everything that my teacher told me that I needed to work on in my second lesson plan, it was like my weaknesses became my strengths, and it was like the best thing ever. So like my first lesson plan, it was missing numbers, and I had like the little popsicles they put the missing, y'all saw my lesson plan. And then the second one was science, where I did the life cycle of a frog, and that was a lot more engaging and just like, it was more like all together type of lesson plan, whereas my first one was more, okay, you guys just do it yourself. So I think that really helps because they're a very busy class, and there's a lot of students with special needs or just like more one-on-one time. And so I think me like stopping to help all of them through like the group lesson plan helped a lot. And I did not have my teacher evaluate me. I had the innovative learning teacher evaluate me, because he also knows who I am, so that was kind of like cool for him to see. But he basically said like I was improving a lot, like I did better, like they were a lot more, they felt a lot more welcoming when I was teaching them, whereas like we had a substitute today, so she was just kind of like all over the place. She didn't really know what to do. So he kind of realized like, oh, I was able to learn their names, I was able to, you know, like analyze their needs, like all this stuff. Like I just knew the classroom after only being there for such a short amount of time. So that was definitely like a strength of mine.
I teach second grade, and I definitely learned a lot from my lesson plan, like we talked about, and how I feel like everybody kind of skipped over this part, but like the management, like techniques and things like that, I feel like that was a huge miss on my part. I also relearned that it's really important to over-prepare your lessons, because there's so many details and things that you can forget and overlook once you actually get to the classroom and you're actually there with the students. Like for my lesson, I had them make a clock because they were learning about time. And I had an example of what it was going to look like, but I really underestimated like the step-by-step technique of doing everything, especially with special ed kids and especially with younger kids. They really need like the guidance and to know exactly what to do so that in the end you get the result that you need in order for them to understand, and also in order to continue on with the lesson, because I had a second part to mine, and one of the kids actually got overwhelmed and just didn't want to work on it, which was fine, and he just like sat at his desk all the time. But I really regret not doing everything step by step so that they could fully like complete the assignment.
Okay, great. So if you were to do it again, you would make sure that you covered those
Oh
details.
yeah, absolutely. If I were to do it again, then I'd probably have 2 examples, a completed one so that they can see what the end result is, and then one with like all of the materials laid out so that we can do it together.
And then even if that child had gotten overwhelmed,
Yeah.
maybe they could use one to
Yeah,
complete.
I did offer him mine, but he was just done. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's totally fine.
I teach kindergarten, and for my first lesson plan, it was pretty good. However, the difficulty and understanding that they are not, so my teacher said it the best way possible, do not give them freedom. Like, do not give them freedom whatsoever, because when you, like, put too much in a kindergartner's hands, they're going to be like, I could go crazy. So, I set my expectations. They understood it, but again, they're kindergartners, so, like, they only, like, follow it so much. But the main issue is difficulty in working together, because they're at the age where they need to start learning how to share. And other than that, they did really well. They colored, but it was more of it's my turn, and all that. So next time I will do more independent work.
Okay.
And I had examples, I had everything, I walked them through it. That wasn't the issue, it's just like, I believe the difficulty. I don't think they understood the instructions well enough.
Okay, so you think your lesson plan or your assignment was a little too hard for them? Okay.
Yes, my teacher even said it, and I agree with her on that. So, I think, however, I will give myself some grace, because it was like my first time doing it with them.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know them well enough, so.
Okay, so how important is knowing your students?
It's really, really important. So it was very humbling. And I'm like, oh, okay, guys. They're like, I can't do it. I'm like, okay. But it was completed. They did complete it. And yeah, it was really good. I learned a lot from it.
Yes.
So it's important to know them, but I feel like also, this is totally different, but also remember that they are children. Because I went in thinking that they were going to be cool with me, because we've been here for a few weeks now. Y'all know me, I know you. Without their base teacher there, they're going to act the way they want to act. It doesn't matter who they're with. And so I kind of was humbled too, that they were acting like hooligans with me. And I was like, well, it's me, it's Miss Elise, what are y'all doing? And they was like, like they didn't care who I was. So I was very humbled by going in thinking that because we knew each other and we based the relationship, that they were going to act accordingly, and they didn't. So that's the regret I have too. Not playing my teacher role serious enough, and not being a friend, or not wanting to be the person to discipline, and then they like are upset with me because I'm not there to be a friend. I'm there to be in the field and learn. So that's something I had to work on too. That's a regret I have, not being a little more flexible with.
The best advice I ever got going into teaching, which I know I've shared this with you before, and I say it again and again, but because it is so true and it's something that spoke volumes to me. There's only one person in the whole room who you can control, and it's yourself. You can kind of have models that kind of guide behavior, and students will kind of follow that. But it's not worth getting in a power struggle with a child, because you can't actually make them do anything. And you might have seen teachers doing what we call planned ignorance, like ignoring a behavior because that behavior is seeking attention. To a child who wants attention, there's no difference between good attention and bad attention. It's still attention. So, all right, so what we just did today, and we got a little off topic, but you're collaborating. This is where great teachers are made, by talking to each other about what they're experiencing and what they can do, and sharing that passion and that love to make the profession better, but also to make the lives of your students better and make education better as a whole. Thank you for joining us in our classroom today. I hope you enjoyed this little snippet of the training of our future teachers.
Teachers are the best.